Hello, welcome to lecture 29 of game theory class. Let's review the renegotiation proofs. When Sarah and Jane are trying to collude, the renegotiation is potentially breaking the original collusion. Why? The one of them deviate, cheat, so break the promise to collude each other, and then apologize and renegotiate so that in the punishment phase would be avoided and they would collude again. But then, foreseeing all this, the original contract would not be happening. That's what I wrote down here. Jane may deviate and choose to compete. Then Jane apologized to Sarah. So let's forget about the past and cooperate, collude. After Jane's deviation, Sarah is supposed to compete and get 100 for her and 100 for Jane. But thinking about getting 100 forever is not as good as getting 200 by forgiving Jane. But then, Jane can repeat this, and then the original promise to collude will break down. So I have briefly mentioned that one solution for that is Sarah may suggest, Jane, if you really regret and sorry for me, then you choose collude and like charging $8, I'm charging $7, so I can get a profit of 300. You're getting profit of 0 for maybe 3 times. Then I really recognize that, like accept that you made a mistake, you will never do it again. But if you don't do that, how can I believe you do that over and over again, kind of thing. So if Jane agreed to that, that is more credible. That is not renegotiation possible. So there can be one solution. Of course, in this case, we have to recalculate the discount factor delta. For the range, this kind of renegotiation proof equilibrium is possible. Complicated? Okay, it is. So basically the punishment page was not a renegotiation proof, and somehow we need to find out a more sophisticated system mechanism so that the punishment phase would become renegotiation proof. Once again, I said why people are worrying about this too much, because in real lifetime many collusion breakdown or many cooperation breakdown. Of course, that is why you need a lawyer and sign a contract so that nobody changed the original contract. However, I mean, when you are collude and in many cases of cooperation between you and your friend, okay, let's do the homework together kind of thing, you cannot really charge on that. And if in the collusion case, if you accuse someone to the police that, oh, that Jane is supposed to collude with me, but she cheated. But then it's not only be Jane, but you, Sarah, also go to jail because collusion is prohibited. So in those situations, we need more sophisticated mechanism. Okay. Real life applications, there's a lot. My favorite example is, do you know Korean novel named Crane? In Korean word hak, written by Korean author Hwang Sun-won. And there's another American novel that's After 20 Years by author O. Henley. I'm going to tell you the story. In Korean novel Crane, or in Korean hak, there is two friends during the Korean War period. One became the North Korean side, one became the South Korean side, and then the North Korean side friend was captured by South Korean side army. Okay, so they used to be a close friend. Now they are enemies, and the South Korean side, actually those policemen, is supposed to kill the North Korean guy. and they talk about it when they're young days and what did you do? And the North Korean guy said, I'm not a communist, but when my village is occupied, what can I do? If I resist, then I'll be killed immediately. So that's why I don't like communist at all, but otherwise I would be executed anyway, something like that. So the South Korean friends kind of understand that, so he kind of let him go, in the end. You should read it, okay? So kind of he said, okay, why it's Crane? Or before I kill you, let's capture Crane and eat it. You're not supposed to do that. Crane is a protected animal. You go to jail if you do that in this stage. But like in Korean War, maybe they were able to do that. So the North Korean side friends kind of couldn't believe that it's like really true, or is he gonna kill me? Like why instead of the Crane he's gonna shoot me? But anyway, the South Korean friend said, "Oh, go ahead and brought the Crane to my side, then I'll kill it and we're gonna eat it and then I'll kill you later," and something like that. But then the North Korean side friends run away. So anyway, in Korea, in conclusion, the Korean policeman intentionally set free his friend because he's his friend. So kind of friendship is more important than law in Korea kind of sense. There are many Korean movies and things which has that kind of sentiment. I mean, okay. Then there's an American novel, After 20 Years, in Korean translation, 20년 후. What is it? There is two friends, once again, in America, a long time ago, and then they want to get a job, so they go separately, one to Chicago, one to New York, and something like that. But then at the time, there's no email, no telephone, so there's no expectation that they are gonna ever meet again. So right after the high school graduation, they promised, okay, 20 years later, right here in front of our school, let's meet. Wow, 20 years later, can they really do that? But after 20 years, they actually met. Surprisingly, one friend became a police, the other friend became a mafia. And then, the police friends agonized himself, what to do. Then he arrests the mafia friends who came all the way from Chicago to meet him after 20. And he risks everything because he's a mafia. So many policemen want to catch him. It's very unsafe to leave the town and go to your hometown. But then he risked all this and came to see you. But the police captured him and put him in jail. So in America, in short, the law is more important than the friendship. Okay. Rephrase it. I'm gonna ask my student, student, you became a policeman in the future, or you became a prosecutor, law enforcement officer, and etc. And you found out your old teacher, Professor Han, get captured doing something, not very serious, something wrong, like a violation of traffic signal or something, then are you gonna send me free, or are you gonna say, "Oh, Professor Han, thank you very much. Thank you. You gave me A. That's why I got into this great school and things like that. But I'm sorry, you go to jail. I'm gonna punish you to the objective criterion." What would you do? If you "Oh, Professor Han, why did you do that? But you are my teacher, so I'll let you go. Don't do it again." That's Korean way. The American way, "Oh, Professor Han, thank you very much. By the way, you should go to jail for the next 3 years," something like that. That is the American way. The school is pretty similar. I mean, in Korea, when the student do something bad, lazy, not working very hard, not studying very hard, the professor called if my TA is lazy, I call them and like yell at him, like kick at him and things like that. And then say like, are you gonna study hard from now? And they say, yes. Okay, then go ahead and study, something like that. In America, from my experience at Harvard, if you are lazy, the professor say nothing. And one day the professor call you and say, no, Mr. Han, you do not study very hard. I don't think you are destined to be a professor or a scholar. So just quit the school. I cut you loose. That's it. You don't have any other chance. Once the professor said you are not the Harvard student anymore, then you are not anymore. Something like that. So it's more like friendship, human relationship against the law-abiding citizen kind of thing. Okay, rule is a rule, and friendship is a friendship. I think the reason is why so much difference in Korea and America and small countries in Asia and America is that the Asian countries or small country like Korea, you meet the same people again and again and again. You know, think of my TA or like Mr. Kim who's taking my game theory class. He did really bad and he said like, oh, I didn't write down anything in the exam, I didn't submit the assignment, so professor, you're right to give me F, but can you change it to C because I want to get a job and things like that. What would I do? Okay, don't ask me, but let me say, I still say no, 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 you didn't do your homework, so I'll give you F. I mean, Mr. Kim, the student, understand that he deserves F, but I don't think he would have a good feeling toward Professor Han. Me. Okay? So, what would be happening? Uh, oops. I didn't set the alarm. Okay? Uh, what would be happening? Uh, he later somehow he graduated. He got a job at Samsung, and 20 years later, after 20 years, he got a new subordinate, newcomer in his department, and last name is Han, and found out that new guy is the son of Professor Han. Would he be nice to my son? I don't think so. But then, is it so likely that my son would belong to a department or a company where one of my students is working? Yes, most definitely. Wherever you go in Korea, there are Yonsei graduates, and these Yonsei graduates would have a great power on my son. So, what I mean is in Korea, everything is repeated. I mean, you meet a student, I met Mr. Kim, Miss Lee, like Mr. Park, they're in my class. I barely remember them. I might not. But in Korea, small country like Korea, somehow me or my family member, somebody will meet him again. I experienced that a lot. Okay, I met some student. I met someone, some young person, and they say, "Oh, Professor Han, by the way, I took your class, and you give me B, not A, or something like. You didn't, treat me well. Oh my God, something like that." Okay, so that's why the network friendship is more important than law. Like in Korea, you just do everything by law, you would be revenged because it's a repeated game. In America, America is a big country. Once you get separated, once you graduated, the chances are you will never meet them again. So, give and take is not basically possible because you're far away. You are in LA and New York, and probably you'll never meet across each other on the street. In Korea, you met someone across on the street. I did a lot with my student. So it's not that Korean people are different from American, but in America, same people meet again hardly in Korea, most likely you meet the same people over and over again. So it's a repeated game in Korea. Another example, would you be treated better in a restaurant near the train station, Seoul train station or big train station? Or are you gonna be treated better, for my case, near the Yonsei University restaurant? My answer is the restaurant near Yonsei University. Like I became a professor 2002, and then I told them, okay, for the next 30 years, probably I'll be professor in Yonsei University. Wow, they gave me something extra because they knew that I would be a regular customer, and I became regular customer. I go there all the time. Near subway station, chances are, the near train station, after today, the customer take the train, go away somewhere, the restaurant owner will never see him again. So it's a one-shot game. You don't have to be nice. You just play the dominant strategy kind of thing. Okay, once again, why people cooperate? I mean, in a crooked mind of economics, it's not because they are nice, they value the friendship and things like that. They cooperate because if they do not, the stick will be in front of them. And if they cooperate, there will be a carrot. In carrot and stick, the incentive system explains most of the economic phenomenon. That's what economists think. So the cooperation is possible only when the other party, other player keep the promise. You praise them, compensate them. If the other party betray you, you just punish them with a stick. Okay? As I said, collusion is difficult because it's not legally forced by the police. You should collude without the police knowing it. So, like when people break the promise of collusion, there's not so much of way to punish them. Actually, that is why it is heard that the mafia is one of the most important business, at least it used to be, is maintaining a collusion. Okay, you are a truck drivers union, and then when they are on a strike, the truck company owner offer them a huge bonus if they drive. So some truck drivers said, "Oh my God, I mean, I can make a fortune if I drive, even though the truck drivers union say don't drive." And then the police would not punish him, and the truck drivers, what can they do? And then this Mr. A get a huge money, truck driver A. Then truck driver B said, "Oh, what the heck? I want to get a lot of money." So then there are 100 truck drivers who were on strike, but then like 2-3 people go on driving, aiming for this huge bonus. The collusion would collapse and things like that. One thing Mafia did is when they do this collusion and go on a strike, Mafia came in and I say, "I do not know anything about truck driving, but if anybody violate this collusion and go for driving, aiming for the big money, we are gonna kill you," kind of thing. So, there are several ways how to prevent people from deviating or breaking the collusion. But even one way to do it is bring in the mafia, so that if you do violate collusion, which is not a bad thing, but anyway, the mafia will visit you, and mafia gets huge money. As I said, collusion produces huge profit, like unfair profit, because it's not a good thing to collude, but then the profit is so huge. So even sometimes they brought in mafia, paying mafia huge money to maintain the collusion. By that way, they can do it. So number one, in reality, collusion is not easy. In addition to that, it's illegal. Okay, so this is the end of the PPT. So we have to move to the next PPT. Sorry for the confusion. I don't know how to stop and restart again. Okay, so this. Okay, game theory PPT number 4. You are still with Professor Sungguhan. Hello. Okay, we are in the middle of lecture 29, the 10th week. This time we are going to deal with the third topic of subgame perfect equilibrium. Number 1 was bargaining. Okay, other than the small like the first mover, second mover, commitment problem, things like that. Number 1 was bargaining problem. Number 2 was the repeated game collusion problem. And 3, and this is going to be the final example, a real example of the subgame perfect equilibrium, that is principal and agent problem. What is principal agent problem? Who caused the problem? Just like general concept is, it is the agent who caused all this turmoil. By the way, what is agent? Actually, agent is doing a job for the principal. Actually, principal is supposed to do everything. If you think about the Samsung Electronics, the 이건희, 이재용, the father and son, they own, not 100%, they own kind of the majority, quite a lot of the stock of Samsung Electronics. So we may say, they are kind of principal, and then these principals, if they can run everything about Samsung Electronics, they can make the mobile phone, they can make semiconductor. But as far as I know, the Lee Jae-young, who is the same age as me and graduated Seoul National University at the same time with me, by the way, I do not know, but anyway, he was my year, and he studied history. So we have a owner of Samsung who studied history and nothing about engineering, and the company is making semiconductors and mobile phones. So the principal owns the company, but he does not have the ability and technology to make semiconductor or the mobile telephone. Even though he has an engineering background, I mean, how is it possible that he produced everything by himself? That he needs a huge group of engineers and business people to work for him. So that's agent. Everybody working in the Samsung Electronics, they are agent working for principal, because principal does not have that ability, or principal's time is limited. He's only one person. He cannot possibly do everything. So agent is by definition supposed to work for principal and getting paid by principal for the job he has done or she has done for the principal. What is the problem? Agent is not doing his or her job properly. The agent cheats on principal. They are supposed to work hard, they don't. Something like that. Okay, they are supposed to be honest, they are not honest, kind of thing. So this principal agent problem, the agent lie and principal would be lied. But principal actually does not. If principal, we are going to talk about it later, but if the principal has the ability to tell the lie from the truth, everything would be simple. The principal said, "Oh, agent, you're lying to me, like you're fired," and things like that. But the problem is, many of the principals do not have that ability. Okay? So, same thing happened to you. Your mom, I don't know, some of you may pay your own tuition, but my guess is like my son, most of our student, the tuition is being paid by mom and dad. And why mom pays you the tuition for Yonsei University? Mom expect you learn to study hard and learn actually something in the class. So, mom constantly checking, are you studying hard? And something like that. Did you do well in the exam and things like that? And I'm sure some of you must have said like, Mom, I studied all night very hard for the exam, but the stupid, strange Professor Han made really awkward and unimportant questions, and as a result, I got F. But it's not my fault, it's the professor's fault. Yeah, right. Actually, that has something to do it. I mean, I'm also agent. I'm an agent for the president right now, President Sasungman. He pays me every week for my salary, and he never told me don't teach. He tells me teach very hard. Okay, give everything to the student. And I said, yes, sir, I'm doing that. And coming home, do you think I'm crazy? I mean, some professors teaching like 30 students in the class. I'm teaching like 400, 350, 60, students in this class. And I think I'm doing enough already. Like, why should I teach very hard? Something like that. So, the salaryman work as hard as the owner, the employer want them to be. So employees' workload hardly, most often than not, does not reach the level of the employer. On the other hand, I mean, partially the problem why agent cheat is on the principle. For example, I tried so hard last year and the sales of my department increased by 100%. But my boss think that I was just lucky. Meaning what? I feel really unappreciated. Like, I make a lot of money this year for my wife. My wife said, oh, you're just lucky. Okay, work harder. I feel pretty unappreciated. My wife, the president of Yonsei University, they never appreciate my effort and everything. And in the end, I think, why am I doing this? Why am I working so hard for the president? And why am I working so hard and making money for my wife? Because they never say thanks to me. I mean, what's the point? Like wasting my life and things like that. What about student? I work my butt off for the student when I was young, but nobody ever say thank for me. If they got A, they think, oh, I did very well. If they got B, they blame me, criticize me, you're not fair and things like that. Okay? Same thing. You think, or sometimes you work so hard, but still you get not F, but maybe C. Your mom said, what are you doing? You're not studying hard. And you said, like, really this time, I studied hard, but I was not lucky. The professor was strange this time. And he didn't give A to no one. Okay. That's what my son says all the time. But anyway, and your mom and dad does not believe in you, and you feel so betrayed, and you say like, oh, I studied so hard, but I still get C. But my mom and dad never think I studied hard. It's like, you got C because you didn't try very hard. So from agent point of view, it's not just cheat and being lazy and lying. Just, sometimes that you try very hard does not mean you would be appreciated by the principal, recognized by the principal. All these problems together. The principal agent problem has two areas. One area is moral hazard. The other is adverse selection. What are they? We are going to explain that, get to know that in the next class. Okay, this has been the lecture 29. See you in lecture 30. Bye-bye.